in the 5.5 years that I had association with Srila Prabhupada, and when I learned about Krishna consciousness, there was a consistent quality that would come out in every meeting I had with him, and it was based on practicality. I think the way he would see me and he could steer me in doing what I had to do, because I was very short, I had a very short period that I had to learn Krishna consciousness. And I also had to make these drawings and try to make temples that I wasn't really sure about what he really wanted. But after I began to work, and I was on my own, and whenever I was called in the room or he wanted to tell me or give me some instruction, it was always the same thing: common sense, common sense, common sense, which was for me the thing that I was worried about in joining, that there was not enough common sense, too much faith, too much praise, and too religious. And he always made it like it is just a normal thing, and you're just doing what you're doing normally, but you do it for Krishna, and I will teach you how to do it for Krishna. So in every situation, whenever there were some problems, and I actually never asked him what to do, he would just give me the direction by talking to other people. I would just listen, and then I would just go on and keep on going. And if there was a moment that he was feeling that I would not be sort of in the right, going in the right direction, then he would again come back with that very down-to-earth approach, and he would just give me that opportunity to be myself, to go on with the creative part of me, and he had the faith that I would stick to that, because once it makes sense, I could work. So making sense to everything. It wasn't philosophical, it wasn't mystical, it was just exactly the way I was. And that is what intrigued me, that he was able to see me and how to use me in a very short period of time, and having me do things that actually I couldn't do, but I felt that by him being there, I could feel Krishna, which I would never even attempt to think that I had anything that I could get mercy from Krishna in that way. So I would always go back to my guru, that is Prabhupada, and I wouldn't allow myself to think any further than that. This is a job, it's got to be done. I'm going to sit and work here with contractors. I got to count bricks, I got to make accounts, I got to make sure that money will not be misspent. I have to be careful for being cheated. And this was a thing that was just going on during this entire 5.5 years that before he passed away. So that is the quality that he showed to me. I've seen many other qualities that he showed to others, but to me it was always the same thing. And there was one time when I asked him a question about architecture, I cannot remember what it was, and then he said, "Why you ask me? You're the architect." I said, "Use your common sense, you will know, you will find out." And that was giving me the freedom that even at that point where which I thought I needed direction, that Prabhupada would still allow me to do it myself. And he said, because these temples, he said, like in Bombay, he was very particular about what he wanted to, with the result, and that was the Govindaji, New Govindaji Mandir from Vrindavan. He gave photos. And he wanted that kind of look. That was the only thing that he ever gave me, very particular about a temple where I worked on. In Vrindavan, he did not tell me anything at all. He just sent me there, and I was there at the site, and there were no drawings of the look of the temple, so he just told me, make it different. He said, this is a temple where we want the world to come to. We want European, Western, American people to come here and learn about Krishna in Vrindavan. And this temple will be their place. So that's why I had to be but then, once you get that freedom that he would give me all the time, you become more careful. So I would be doing more research, and I would just try to see what is Prabhupada's feeling about being very strong Indian, very strong culture, even in his speech. And at the same time, by his spiritual master having him sent to the West, he opened up, and probably for Prabhupada himself must be quite an eye-opener to see the Western world. It's a madhouse, but that all these people came to him, and they were respecting him because he came from India. And I think that respect, the natural respect, that just because you come from India, you're a holy man, that attracted Western people enormously in those years. And that's why we were all part of that. So Bhargava earlier, he asked me a question about what was your spiritual motivation? Did you have some kind of vision or thing like that? I said, no, I never had that. Because when I went to India, I just went there like a young man, studied the culture, the traditions, and things that lasted for thousands of years. That's what I thought, how do they do that? So Prabhupada came from there. He came from thousands and thousands of years of ancient knowledge. But it was only when I met Prabhupada that knowledge came into the picture. Before it was pure culture and art and what you see on the outside. And Prabhupada gave the insight, slowly, slowly, the importance of what India can offer to the world, because that was very strong in his preaching. And even to the Indian people, he would say, you are already with Krishna. Just make sure that you don't lose Krishna, but export Krishna. Krishna belongs to the whole universe, not just in India. And from there on, all the projects that I worked on had that same song, that same feeling. And then, of course, as you progress in Krishna consciousness, I learned slokas, I learned a little bit Sanskrit, I learned the philosophy. So the appreciation, it wasn't just the service that he gave, also the time we got, because there was no money. And that period of no money was so perfect to do other things that I would never be able to do. So we could study the Shastras, and we were serious about it. And we listened to his tapes, and we listened to his speeches and his talks and his lectures. And then we tried to incorporate that in our own way of thinking, and at least I was preaching that way. So this is how Prabhupada would say it, and how would I use that information, that knowledge, in a slightly different way by which I could reach other people. Maybe in the art community, they are more sensitive for a certain way, certain approach. So I started adjusting myself, but always on that principle of it has to make sense. When you talk to people, whatever you want to say, it's got to make sense. It's got to be simple, it's got to make sense.